Let's talk about something that was trending today, hydroxychloroquine. It's an anti-malarial drug. India makes a lot of it. And suddenly the whole world wants it, including US President Donald Trump. Only he doesn't know how to ask properly. So he issues threats. Our cover story tonight is about a president who is disconnected with reality. A president who is failing miserably. A president who was in denial about this pandemic. Things became so bad that a Russian military plane landed in America with medical supplies made by a company that the US had sanctioned. Donald Trump is in no position to dictate terms, not at home, not abroad, certainly not to India. And yet he threatens retaliation if his quote-unquote request is not honored. So tonight, we will tell you why Donald Trump may be single-handedly responsible for America's crisis and how lack of leadership is making a superpower bite the dust. Our story tonight begins with a press conference. A journalist rose to ask the president a question. He wanted to know about India's ban on medicine exports. India had banned the export of medicine, specifically of hydroxychloroquine, a potential, I want to underline that, a potential cure for coronavirus. The journalist wanted to know how President Trump would deal with this ban. Trump replied with a threat.
India does very well with the United States. For many years, they've been taking advantage of the United States on trade. So I would be surprised if that were his decision. He'd have to tell me that. I spoke to him Sunday morning, called him, and I said, we'd appreciate your allowing our supply to come out. If he doesn't allow it to come out, that would be okay. But, of course, there may be retaliation. Why wouldn't there be?
India has been taking advantage of the United Nations. Of course, there will be United States, of course there will be retaliation, he says. Why not? A retaliation, that is what the US president is threatening. First, a botched up response, and now such bluster. America has more than 370,000 cases of the coronavirus, the highest in the world. They're failing miserably at controlling the Wuhan virus, and now Donald Trump is looking for a fall guy. The president is blaming everybody but himself. Trump wants to show that he is in control. Unfortunately for him, not many believe this. Plus, the records do him no favor. It turns out that the Trump administration knew about the coronavirus threat. They were warned well in advance, as far back as January. They sat on the information. The New York Times carried a story today. It talks about a memo written by a top White House advisor. This memo warned the Trump administration of the threat of the Wuhan virus. And it said this very clearly. If the coronavirus outbreak is ignored, the United States could lose trillions of dollars. The memo said that the lives of millions of Americans are at risk. It was written by a man called Peter Navarro on the 29th of January, more than 2 months ago. He is Donald Trump's advisor on trade, but Trump is his own advisor. So Mr. Navarro's warning fell on deaf ears. About 2 weeks after he wrote this warning, Trump was asked about the Wuhan virus. How will America fight it? Do you know what the president said? I'd much rather you heard it from him. Listen to this.
Now, the virus that we're talking about having to do, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in. Typically, that will go away in April. We're in great shape, though. We have 12 cases, 11 cases, and many of them are in good shape now.
It will go away in April, he said. Well, we are in April now, and so is the Wuhan virus. And thousands of people are sick and dying. On this show, we've been exposing China's criminal negligence. Tonight, we must add that Donald Trump acted too late. This too is negligence. And it's criminal. Americans should hold their president accountable. The warnings were there. The damage should have been contained, but Mr. Trump chose to believe a myth. Now his country is suffering. This crisis has exposed the US leadership or the lack of it. Donald Trump downplayed the threat. His government did not prepare for the outbreak. Now they're running short of supplies. There is a dangerous shortage of masks in America. In some areas, volunteers are now pitching in. They're making masks at home for the medical workers on the front lines. Critical medication is in short supply, and this includes antibiotics, antivirals, sedatives, the drugs that are used to treat coronavirus patients. Trump is facing a backlash, and what is he doing in response? He's bullying allies, demanding supplies, else there will be retaliation, he says. Getting ventilators from a sanctioned Russian company delivered by a Russian military plane to the United States of America. What the world is calling a threat to India is in fact this president's frustration. Donald Trump believes he can force any country to sell him critical supplies. Well, here are some facts that we must all know. The decision to lift India's partial ban, or lift the ban partially on the export of medicines, came before Trump's so-called threat, not after. India, remember, had requests from 30-odd countries for medicines, so India decided to help those in need. That's what any mature country would do. Let me repeat, India's decision came before the president hinted at retaliation, not after. So we should dismiss Trump's comments as his trademark grandstanding. India has decided that neighborhood comes first. It will give medicines to countries that need it most. As for this medicine, hydroxychloroquine, here's the thing. Trump is betting big on it. It is being called the miracle drug, but it is not a proven cure. Scientists will not vouch for it. There is no proven cure for the Wuhan coronavirus. It's all trial and error right now. Hydroxychloroquine has been given to some patients around the world. They've shown positive signs, but doctors are not widely prescribing it because the evidence is limited. Trump's own advisor on this, America's top doctor and researcher on infectious diseases, Anthony Fauci, has called the evidence, quote-unquote, anecdotal. But the president will have none of it. He wants to be seen as finally doing something. So he's buying 100,000 body bags and he's insisting on a medicine that may or may not work. And this alone should explain why America is in such a mess.